Hey folks, welcome. Can everybody hear me in the back? Awesome. Who's having a good time? I know it's early. Come on guys, louder. Let's go. Who's having a great time? I was going to start off with a solo, but Cindy took stole my thunder a little bit, so I'll have to improv a little bit here. One quick lesson. We're going to learn a lot about social media today. New concept for many folks. We had this presentation last year. It went really well, so I'm psyched to be able to come out and do it again. My name is Roberge. I run sales and services at HubSpot. And I'm going to go a little bit of a tangent here. We're going to focus on paid, but one quick organic social lesson for events. My Twitter handle is there, Roberge. We actually have the same hashtag, #inbound12. So if I say anything smart or funny, please tweet away. Just as a quick sort of promotion, I'm very psyched to educate the 400 people that are here, but that's really a fraction of the education value that will come out of the next 45 minutes. How many people in the room have over 1,000 followers on Twitter? Okay, there's about 20 hands that went up. I bet if I re-asked the question of 5,000, I bet there's a reach of maybe 50,000 people in the room. And they're going to be tweeting out. The folks who have 1,000 followers are probably going to tweet once or twice out there. So just through this speech, yes, I'm psyched to educate the 400 people here, but the power of an event like this, we're going to reach 50,000 people with the comments and the content that we create right away. So little side note for the value of creating your Twitter handles and your hashtags and everything that you do in marketing. All right. You also can rate my presentation. I'll put this up at the end as well. We did get the highest rated last year. See if we can repeat that performance. All right, first comment I'm going to make is every week at HubSpot, we get a call from a marketer in tears, from a marketing prospect. And the large majority of those tears comes from the fact that they were a hero at their business in the last 18 months for feeding their sales team with lots of great leads. And the way they did it was through pay-per-click advertising. For 18 months, they spent $2,000, $5,000, $20,000 a month, whatever it took to feed their sales team with inbound leads. And the tears came today because that big competitor behemoth in the industry just outbid all of their positions. And they cannot afford them anymore. Their cost per lead will go through their roof. The cost per sale will no longer make sense. So that's, I hope, one of the main reasons folks will one of the big things they'll take away from today is if you're a marketer highly dependent on pay-per-click and paid media, if you're an executive that knows the majority of your marketing leads, or if you're a sales executive that knows that most of your demand generation is coming from that channel, be very careful. These are channels that become efficient over time, and the big guys win, and the small guys lose out. The way that paid media fits in with inbound is our sustainable channel. It is the place where we create content, we develop relationships, we have nice SEO positions, and those are very sustainable positions with really great traffic and really great leads. The value that paid contributes to inbound is it accelerates our learnings. It accelerates our experiments and understanding of what's going to work for us on the organic side. We're asking ourselves what keywords are going to be the best lead generators for us. We're asking ourselves what demographics are going to be the best prospects. We're asking ourselves which communities should we spend the most time in to promote our inbound marketing. And you will understand that through a standard inbound marketing methodology within months. You'll get it. But paid social media, pay-per-click, presents the opportunity to get those answers within days and weeks. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The other big question that we get often is, I'm diving into social media, but where's the ROI? And there's a couple places where people are underappreciating the value that can come from social media. All right, so I'm going to first start off with a simple framework. Pay-per-click versus paid social media. We'll cover both topics today. We'll do a lot on paid social media because it's new. Pay-per-click is relatively mature. Let's appreciate a very high-level difference between these two. In pay-per-click, when I go into Google and I do a search for IT consultant in Boston, I have a pretty high intention to purchase. I have a problem that I'm looking to solve that's IT related. Okay? Now, when I log into Facebook in the morning, I'm not necessarily looking for an IT consultant in Boston. I may see an ad there, but I'm looking to catch up with my friends, see what they're actually doing, right? The intention to buy is very low. The big advantage in social media and paid social media is the influence you can create through your friends, through your peers, through your family. I've got some great stats for you. We all know kind of naturally that our friends, when they recommend a brand, it raises our attention toward that brand. Pay-per-click does not have that opportunity. There's a slight opportunity that I'll talk about, but for the most part, there's not a great opportunity to influence brand awareness through your friends. So that's really the difference we're talking about. The two areas around ROI in social media that people underappreciate, the first one is around distribution, right? So when we talk about distribution and reach as marketers, many marketers talk about their size of their email list. I've got an email list of 50,000 emails. I've got an email list of 75,000 emails. It's my little gold. It's how I get leads. They underappreciate the reach that's generated through your Facebook fans, through your Twitter followers, through the followers of your LinkedIn company page. And the data will show that those have higher engagement. They have higher click-through rates potentially. And when someone changes jobs, they sure do change their professional email address, but they don't change their Twitter account, and they don't change their Facebook account. So it's a much more sustained relationship. So when we talk about reach, we need to talk not just about our email database size, but all these other components. Okay? The other thing that very few people recognize is the impact that social and all that activity you're doing has on search and your Google ranks. For those of you who have progressed along your inbound marketing journey, you can probably look back in the last quarter and the last year as to which particular lead sources are your best performers. Where do most of your leads come from, and which ones convert at the highest rate? I would bet for most of you, I don't think I've ever found anyone's analytics where it didn't come from Google. When someone does a search term, a search, those are hot visitors, those are hot leads. My sales team loves those, and they convert at a very high rate. We will do anything to get more of those. And you guys have been great students of the SEO discipline over the last few years. Many of you know the value of content creation to win the search game. Many of you know the value of inbound links. That's the key to unlocking Google. But if you've studied sort of any of the blog posts from some of the Google engineers over the last 18 months, or some of the great analysis from guys like Rand Fishkin, who's doing the keynote, I think later today or tomorrow, you'll recognize the importance of social media authority on the Google game. And what this analysis shows is it's looking at all the different assets that you have as a company, all the digital assets that you have as a marketing team. The green ones are the on-page SEO components, your page titles, your descriptions, your headers. The blue ones are your inbound links that are coming in. And all the ones in orange are your social media authority and assets. They're your Facebook likes, they're your Facebook comments, they're your tweets, they're your retweets. And the bigger the bar to the right, the more of an influence today those components have on your Google rank, right? So this is stuff that a lot of people don't realize. You are not going to win the Google game long term if you're not aggressively going down the social path. So when we talk about paid social media today, let's appreciate it's not just a funnel shape of the visits, leads, and customers you're getting from Twitter and Facebook. It's also impacting SEO. It's also impacting the size of your distribution. Okay. All right. We run a lot of contests in sales. I'm going to run some contests with you guys to keep this vibrant. I can give away $50 of Facebook ads. So if you're not in the Facebook ad game yet, here's an opportunity to jump in. Let's see who's got the biggest Twitter follow in the room. Let's start at 5,000. Who's got 5,000 followers? Not too many. Can you put them up higher? 1, 2, 3. Can you? How about 10,000? Everyone's down. 7,000. Is anyone up at 10,000? In the back. 1 at 10,000. Anybody else? Sir, would you mind? I hope you're not afraid of big audiences. Name and company?
It's my personal Twitter.
Cool. That's awesome.
Adam Ivy, 47,000.
Sweet. Congratulations. Can you share maybe like 5 seconds? What's the biggest like business value or professional value you've got out of having that big of a following?
I get a lot of people to buy stuff from me.
All right, cool. I'll take that one. Thank you. Appreciate that. Congrats for the big following. All right, let's do some basics here, just to level set the room. Membership size, we're close to 1 billion members in Facebook, about half that size in Twitter these days, and about a quarter that size, they're pushing 300 million in LinkedIn, all right? In terms of ad revenue spend, very different story, all right? The LinkedIn is actually just, it's not their total revenue, it's just their ad revenue. 3.5 billion in Facebook and much, much smaller numbers in LinkedIn and Twitter. Now, when pay-per-click was started 12 years ago, 15 years ago, it was an inefficient market. There was lots of opportunity to dive in there and acquire leads at a low cost. This is what represents that opportunity. Even in Facebook, at that spend, they are under-monetized. People are just starting to dip their toe in there. There's great opportunity to generate leads for cheap. But even more so on LinkedIn and Twitter. You saw the user numbers. They're 2x, they're 4x off. This is a 20x difference or whatever it is. So there's big opportunities to learn across all of these communities and take advantage of the inefficient market that exists out there. Okay? Where do the ads exist? In Facebook, they're on the right-hand side. You've probably all seen them. Facebook will typically post around 3 to 5 of them. You don't have a lot of control on where you end up. You can adjust your spend, but you don't have a lot of control of where you end up. It's very, very hard to actually get on your main timeline. Those are usually dedicated toward big brands that have relationships with Facebook salespeople. They're starting to get a little bit more mature along those lines. On Twitter, there's 3 places where your ads will show up. There's a promoted tweet, a promoted account, and a promoted trend. Okay? For most of you, you'd start with promoted tweets. You can actually choose a tweet and take out a budget, and that tweet will show up in timelines that have relations to the interests and the demographic segments that you chose. You pay on a per engagement basis, and engagement means a retweet or a click. Okay? On the account, the promoted account, you'll actually show up in the area where people they're recommending who you should follow. And you pay on a per follow basis there. And then on the promoted trend, those are very, very expensive, like over $100,000 a day. No one knows for sure, but that's what the rumor is. So it's usually only the B2C big brands that are actually playing ball there. All right, the other one is LinkedIn. They've got a bunch of different revenue sources, not all of which are ad-based, so I don't think they've been as mature on this particular side of things, but you can either end up at the top or you can end up on the right-hand side. Okay? We'll get back to some of those components. And then, of course, pay-per-click. The big thing with pay-per-click is the advent of Google Plus and seeing you can actually +1 if you like the website listing, which will influence your organic ranks. And if you have done that and you're kind of following that brand, people's names will show up under those listings on the organic side. And that'll influence your click-through rates on the organic side. So that's the one area in pay-per-click where you can leverage the peer influence. All right. We missed contest number 2. Who's doing advertising on Facebook? Are there folks in the room that are doing it? Awesome. All right, let's see who's accumulated the most fans. Who's got the most fans to their company page? We'll start at 5,000. 10,000? 15,000? 20,000? 50,000? Anybody up still? I got one. Raise them high. Congratulations, sir. How many? How many? 105,000. Company name? What do you guys do? Very, very cool. Like the student angle. Can 5 seconds on like biggest business value you've got out of Facebook and accumulate that big of a following? Brand awareness. Nice. And that can you translate that into revenue or no? Okay, cool. Appreciate that. Thank you.
We can't hear in the back.
Okay, sorry. He had 105,000. Zitch was the name. It's a student. He uses it for student engagement, right? And it's very difficult to translate into revenue today. Thank you. All right, send me an email at mark@hubspot.com, by the way, and I will send you those $50 for both winners. All right. So now for the testing component, paid social media. Now that we've built up this following, we're about to venture into a big inbound marketing journey. I have a lot of questions as I venture into that journey. I wonder where I should be spending time. I just did a search in LinkedIn, and I found 1,000 groups in my industry. I have no idea where I'm going to spend my time. I can use paid social media to tell me that. Next week, I'm going to do an ebook. And I don't know, like in my buying cycle, C-level executives play a big role in that process, as do the end user, the admin, the IT guy. Do I need to write a different ebook for those two people? Do I need to have a different landing page? Do I need to have different messaging for those two different types of people? Or are they close enough that I can save myself some time? That's a key question. I happen to do business across the country, across the world. Do people in different regions adapt to my marketing messaging differently? I can run tests in paid social to figure that out. My sales team, I don't know if they should start lower in the organization or higher in the organization. For the sales veterans in the room, it's always call high, call high, call high. I'm not sure that's true anymore. I've run a lot of analysis on it. The lower level guys are easier to get on the phone and know enough about the strategy. I may want to start there, and then once I've kind of found out my intelligence, then call the CEO. Where's my sales team doing a better job? I can run tests tomorrow to figure that out using paid social media. All right? So there's some examples of questions that I want to ask. This is the availability of segmentation you can do across those communities. Right? So Facebook, really, really strong across all the different demographics, some really unique ones like relationship status, maybe college, perhaps not as applicable to B2B marketing and a lot of the folks in the room, but lots of segmentation capability. Similar to LinkedIn, much more corporate, right? You can do job function, you can do seniority, you can do role. Twitter, not as much built out there. They're really limited to location and interest and pay-per-click as well. You can do a little bit of language. The interests segmentation is always the most powerful. And fortunately, you can do that in every single community. I'm going to touch on that and how those are interpreted within each of those groups. Okay. Let me dig in a little bit more. Females versus males. Females are more of Facebook and more of Twitter. Males more dominant in LinkedIn. They actually behave a little differently. Women have a more likelihood to click on an ad, but men are more likely to like a brand. Okay. From an age standpoint, I think everybody knows Facebook's is big with the teens, et cetera. It's not just the teens. Right? If you add up the stats here, I think it's 37% of Facebook users are over 35. And when you do the math on that, you could be talking about a bigger percentage of those demographics in Facebook than LinkedIn. Even though LinkedIn, not as big with the teens, but you can't ignore Facebook from that standpoint. Twitter is not a teen playground. Not a teen playground. They don't like Twitter as much. It's the 20s and the 30s that are in there. So we have nice decision makers across the board here from a B2B standpoint. Okay? And then digging specifically into LinkedIn, the company size standpoint, I know that 96% of businesses in the US have under 20 employees. LinkedIn will actually skew a little higher. So they've done a good job of attracting the bigger companies in there. Certainly high tech and finance are the biggest adopters from an industry standpoint, a little tougher in education and consumer goods. And you got a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of salespeople. There's actually a lot of recruiters in there, less so in finance and engineering. Okay? A lot of decision makers as well. You're looking at 25% are at a director, owner, or above. C-level executives, VPs, directors, these are main decision makers. Right? And of course, you've got the influencers in there as well. Okay, so let's run a test. Let's go back to my ebook example. I'm going to write an ebook next week. I don't know if I can save myself time and write one generic ebook with one generic message, or do I need to differ it by the C-level executive versus the IT admin? Both those people are really important to my sales process. I need buy-in from both. I need the C-level guy to sign off, sometimes to instigate it, and I also need the IT individual to buy into using my product. I'm going to create 2 campaigns in LinkedIn. The first campaign, I'm going to target the companies, the small companies that I actually target. I'm looking in the seniority level at CXOs and VPs. I'm going to write an ad that's specific to them. Executive cloud strategy. Learn what elements of cloud strategy are keeping executives up at night. And I'm going to have a landing page that's customized to them. Similarly, I'm going to create a campaign for the end individual contributor. And I'm going to write a similar ad. Cloud best practices. Learn about cloud computing techniques your peers are using in 2012. And I'm going to have a landing page that's specific to them. And then I'll run a control group with a generic ad. This will be very telling, depending on how much money I spend, in days and weeks, as to how influential these different messages are. And now I don't have to waste time going out, creating content for months and months, discovering these particular elements. I know exactly whether or not I have to build a different ebook, and going forward, whether I need to market to these two different personas differently. Okay. On the pay-per-click side, many of us began our inbound journey by doing a keyword analysis. We came up with a list of 300, 500 words that represented the search terms that I wanted to go after. They represented the phrases that people might be mentioning in social media that I want to be monitoring. And we really have no idea whether those represented qualified prospects or not. And we were about to venture out and create content for weeks and months. And over time, we will start to rank in Google for those terms. And over time, we will start to get traffic from those terms. And over time, we will see how our sales team does with leads from those terms. But I can generate traffic from those words tomorrow through pay-per-click. And I can see how my sales team does with leads from that particular word tomorrow through pay-per-click. And that can save me a lot of time. If I run a bunch of experiments across those keywords, I now know precisely where to focus my content generation, and I have great confidence that once I win the organic game, those are going to be hot leads, and I'm going to look like a rock star to my sales team. So those are the different tests that we actually have to run. Okay? Here's an example. Let's take a smaller company. Let's say that I'm a general contractor, and I do patios, and I do kitchens, and I paint, and I do roofs. I'm wondering how well kitchen remodeling will actually perform for me as a long-tail word, because I'm going to start blogging, and I'm wondering if this is one of the areas that I want to focus on. So within Google AdWords, I'll set up a simple campaign. I'll put in all the different ways that people can search for kitchen remodeling. Right? I'll run 3 different advertisements on the right-hand side, and I'll rotate those through AdWords to see which particular phrase and which particular ad had the highest click-through rate. I will run an A/B test for 2 different landing pages with 2 separate offers and 2 separate messages to see what really resonated with that person looking to redo their kitchen. What motivated them to give me their email address, to give me their phone number. And then I will measure. And depending on how much money I spend, within days, within weeks, I will know whether this campaign works. And I will also know within this campaign which particular phrases generated the most traffic and the best traffic that converted into sales. Now I have a lot more intelligence going into the next few months as I blog, as I create content. I know precisely what I want to write about, what phrases I want to use. I know precisely how I want to optimize that page. I'm going to lay out the description to match to the ad copy that I actually wrote on that page. And I know how to lay out the page in terms of its offer because I tested in my landing pages. So this greatly accelerates our learnings in inbound and our effectiveness in inbound in a much shorter period of time. All right. We talked about distribution and some of the leveraging of social to, through your peers and your friends and family. And this is like a concept that's really coming out in the next year or two. If you've heard of sponsored stories, that's the big next wave for Facebook. And it gets into this sort of friend of a friend advertising. And the analogy that I like to tell here is football season starting, there's going to be a lot of Bud Light commercials. And those Bud Light commercials are going to be people in bikinis having fun with beach balls and all that kind of stuff. And that's effective. It gets me to go want to buy Bud Light. But the most effective way to get me to buy Bud Light is if my best friend from college, who I haven't seen in a while, came on that TV commercial and was like, hey, Mark, remember senior year when we were out on the porch just enjoying that beautiful day and we whipped out that 6-pack of Bud Light? That's going to motivate me to go buy Bud Light. And that is the opportunity that Facebook has created for us and other social media sites are creating for us within our own brand awareness and messaging, right? And it's, here's some stats for you. 90% of consumers online trust recommendations from people to know. 71% say reviews from family members or friends influence those decisions. I think we all know that with our instincts. So here's an example of how that works. I think this came from Facebook's site. Why would I pick someone who's named Fiji? I don't know, but I think that's how you pronounce her name. So Fiji came into Facebook today to see what her friends are doing. And she has a friend, Trevor Walsh. And Trevor Walsh liked Toys R Us. Okay? So Toys R Us took out a sponsored story on their brand in Facebook and designated that any time that someone likes their brand, they're willing to pay Facebook to show an advertisement. And Facebook will put that person's name, and they'll show it to anybody that is friends with Trevor, right? So that sometimes they'll put their picture there, they'll put the other people that are also liking the brand, and that really instigates Fidji to trust Toys R Us, because her friends do that. So this is called the sponsored story, and it comes in a couple different dimensions. The example I gave is in the upper left-hand corner when someone likes your business page. You can also do this on a page post, right? So if you actually post up some content, you can, if it's a really good article, you can choose not only to put that up in your main feed, you can take an advertisement out on it as well. And that will start showing up to all of your fans. And you can choose on that particular page post if anyone likes it. You can take an advertisement on that as well. So if someone likes that page post, it'll be shown to all of their friends as an advertisement with a little picture next to it. So it's very, very influential. This is a great opportunity to scale and aggregate up the influence of your friends on your brands. Okay. The way you do it is you're setting up the ad. You actually choose the destination would be your company page or the story, and you'll see the option there to choose sponsored stories and to like an ad. Okay, you can preview it, et cetera. They've done a pretty good job at that interface. All right, moving to Twitter. So in Twitter, I mentioned there were 3 options. There's the promoted account, there's the promoted tweet, and then there's a promoted trend. Okay? The way that you set that up is you actually designate through the actual campaign UI. The big thing here is the interests. That's really a key area that will designate to Twitter where to show up these ads, where to display these ads. So if you put in technology, if you put in soccer, if somebody talks a lot about soccer, they're actually going to put your ad up in those timelines. They're actually going to suggest people who talk a lot about soccer, suggest you as an account to follow. So it's really important to get precise around those keywords. Right? With the promoted tweet in particular, so if you write a nice tweet and it gets a lot of traction, you may want to take out an ad on that. That's going to show up in a couple different places. It shows up in people's timelines who talk a lot about the subject that your ad's about, and the subject that you designated interest around. It also shows up in search. So people do actually do searches in Twitter, search.twitter.com. When they search on that particular keyword, your ad will show up. And it will also show up in your Twitter account. So if you had this really nice tweet that you did today, and a week from now, someone came to your Twitter account, they're obviously going to see everything you said over the last week. If you want the thing you said today, because it's really important to show up at the top, you can take out an ad on it, and that will bubble up to the top. So those are the 3 different areas where these promoted tweets will show up. And then, of course, in search. We covered that with the Google+. All right. One more concept that's really important and unique to social media, different from pay-per-click, is the concept of ad tiring. So when you set up your pay-per-click campaigns 2 years ago, you could almost do a kind of set up and forget it type approach. Right? You do want to learn from them and tweak them, et cetera, but it's not every day that someone goes out and does a search for Boston plumber. Right? They need one when they need a plumber. And your ad shows up and they probably haven't seen it before. It's a much different game in social media. Right? So when you set up an ad or do one of these sponsored stories and I log into Facebook and I see it, that's cool. But when I log into Facebook again this afternoon and I see the same ad, that's less cool. And when I do it tomorrow and the next day and the next day it's the same ad, you have ad tiring. I am not going to click on that. So you actually have to recycle your content frequently within social media to make them effective. So that's an important concept across all these, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, to be effective. All right, couple apps to close out here that are unique to HubSpot related to today's subject. We're going to learn tomorrow morning about the new contact database capability, which some of you have had exposure to within HubSpot. Related to this topic, This is probably one of the best places to aggregate, understand, and message to your social media influencers. Right? When you import a list to HubSpot of your leads, HubSpot will go out and find the social media profiles of those people, if they exist, and append them to that lead. When a new lead comes in off a landing page, HubSpot will go out and figure out if they have a Twitter account and append it to that lead, if it exists. And now what you can do within your segmentation capability in HubSpot is you can segment on things like how many followers do they have? Because anyone over 1,000, everyone over 2,000 is pretty important to me. They're probably a heavy influencer in my industry. You can segment by whether or not they've clicked on your tweets. And you can segment by the most recent click, if they've clicked in the last month or 3 months or year. So this allows you to get down to the social media influencers for your business. And they need to be marketed to very differently. Some of them will never be customers. They'll never be not even qualified to be a customer. But they have great reach and influence in your industry. And you want to make sure you have a content strategy specific to them. Okay. Also, with similar capability, your salespeople should be paying attention to this stuff. When I get a new lead in, this is one of the areas that I'm going to check. Do they have a Twitter account? Are they active there? If I'm going to leave 6 voicemails for this person over the next 2 months, I might as well throw a tweet in there as well. It's a really great way where the barriers are down to try to get engaged with these people for your sales team. So let's first figure out if they're engaged out there and perhaps use that as a communication mechanism. And then social media reach, this is an app that's been out there for a while. It allows you to measure week over week, month over month, how effective you are in growing your channel. For the marketers in the room, this is a great thing to include in your monthly report out, your quarterly report out to your executives and board to see how those great efforts are paying off. Okay? There's a lot of enhancements that have happened in the social publishing tool, specifically around scheduling. Right? So you can schedule a blog post, you can schedule a landing page, you can schedule your tweets. So you can line up all these campaigns well in advance. Sometimes our marketers will do it on the weekend, and the whole week will just kind of play out between the landing pages, blogs, and tweets. You can actually load up the Twitter profiles, not just your own company account, but your executives, some of the influencers that are out there. They may want to give control of those Twitter profiles somewhat to your marketers so they actually leverage them and schedule them out. And you can schedule these tweets. It's okay to tweet the same thing multiple times. You may want to have a really cool tweet it at midnight tonight, and then in 2 days tweet it at noon, and then 2 days tweet it at 5 p.m. You can actually do that through one click within HubSpot Scheduler today. Okay. We got a bunch of cool apps. Grow Social is a fantastic company that actually has done a lot of great UI innovation to make creating your Facebook page effective, adding tabs to it, et cetera. And that hooks right into HubSpot with the lead forms that you can create, and any leads that come from it will go right into your contact database. Okay? Hootsuite, awesome, awesome app. I've used Hootsuite for years and years. There's a really cool integration here as well. You've gone through a lot of effort within HubSpot to identify the keywords that matter to you. When someone does a search for that word, they tend to be a qualified prospect. When someone mentions that word in social, that tends to be a conversation that you want to be a part of. The Hootsuite app uploads those keywords right into Hootsuite. And there's a nice little column in Hootsuite where you can designate which of those words you want to follow, and it tells you all the conversations related to those words. Really, really cool stuff. The other thing on the right-hand side is it integrates with your contact list. Right? So all of the contacts and leads that are in your database, Hootsuite will upload those, and if they have Twitter handles, they'll actually tell you what those people are talking about. This is gold for a salesperson. If I spend my day waking up in the morning cold calling, I want this list. These are triggering events that I can call people on, that they've going to a conference, they downloaded an ebook, they liked something that's out there. This is something that I can actually reference in my cold call. And it's right there, easy for you to understand. So check that one out. And we also have some really cool pay-per-click apps, one from website publicity and one from WordStream, that get a little deeper into the amount of spend you're making on some of these keywords, how you're doing across ad groups or on ad campaigns, some really specific stuff to Google AdWords. that allow you to see that number and marry it with the HubSpot data around visits, leads, and customers. So you can do much more in-depth ROI. Okay. And I'll leave you, we can have a couple questions here at the end. But for those of you who haven't checked out HubSpot Academy, there's a plethora of information on social and all of inbound marketing, a number of videos. We post our webinars up there, all of our methodology as well. So please check out academy.hubspot.com. We've got a few minutes for questions, and I will let you go. Can you actually head back to the mic, if you don't mind? Thank you.
Hi. Most of your suggestions are very interesting, but one of the challenges that I have, let's say with LinkedIn ads, I think it's very interesting to test, the waters, which was a very good suggestion. But most of those people who click through on that are anonymous, which I consider okay. But how do you convince your C-suite that that's okay, that people are at least looking at you? They're always asking about ROI on that.
Okay. So most of the people clicking on your LinkedIn ads are anonymous, and
Correct.
the C-suite is questioning the value of that because you want you want to be able to segment down, et cetera.
Correct. I mean, it even goes back to the keynote this morning of ungating material. I believe in ungating material, but then the question always is, well, what difference does it make if 2,000 people downloaded this if I don't know who they are? So
I think it comes, eventually that will show up in your numbers, and that's actually what you'll want to show to them. I mean, in that case, you're choosing between when you gate material, let's say you are able to, I'll take a simpler example than the LinkedIn ad. If you're able to drive sort of 10,000 people to a particular page and you gate the material, you may have a 3%, 5%, 10% conversion on that, and you can extract some identity from that. When you don't gate the material, you may have a 95% uptake of it. Usually, I mean, it's 6 in one, half dozen the other. The numbers over time should come out somewhere else. So if you are running experiments, and it's going to take some time, over a month or two, of ungated material, those numbers should come out in maybe your organic, maybe referrals, because people tend to be passing that information along more effectively. Maybe it actually ends up coming in your conversion on other campaigns because they trust your brand more, but it tends to come out in other elements. The other thing that we've seen really effective in those types of ungated material is to actually put the call to action right in the ungated material. So you have, even though you decide not to put a call to action in front of that particular material, you gave that material away, the material itself has follow-on calls to actions, free trial requests, free demo requests, contact a salesperson, maybe other related material that's gated, and you can see some secondary conversion there. So,
excellent.
okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Other questions? I can hear it from here. I'll repeat it. Go ahead. I'll repeat it. Yep. Yes. Right. Yep. Cool. Good question. Yep. Good question. So the question is, as a marketer, I'm trying to understand the difference between my company social media profiles, whether it's in Twitter or LinkedIn, et cetera, and my own profiles as well as my executive personal profiles. Do I use both of them to promote myself, and what's the difference between the two? The answer is yes to using both. And really it represents, these are live personas, and you kind of bring your company to life in a way. And as an individual, when I'm out on Twitter, this represents all of me. And all of me is HubSpot, it's my boys, it's my wife, it's the Red Sox, it's playing beach volleyball. And that's what my tweets are. HubSpot doesn't have boys, they don't have a wife, they don't play beach volleyball. So HubSpot's persona is all of them. And there's an overlap there because I'm an executive at HubSpot. So you'll see that HubSpot will tweet things and I will retweet things. I will tweet things and HubSpot will retweet things. But HubSpot is all about them. It's about, yes, our products. It's about, yes, our events that are coming out. But it's also about our friends like David Merriman-Scott and Rand Fishkin. It's about the cool case studies that David talked about today. It's about new trends that are happening in Google and Facebook, and it represents their whole being. So when you are promoting ebooks and that kind of stuff, absolutely do both. That should go through your company. That should go through your executive team. But do you understand what I mean with the persona representation? I can do one more question. I'm going to take a front one, and I'll repeat it. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks. Good presentation.
Thank you.
We work mainly with physicians who we don't see a lot on Facebook or on LinkedIn because of their professional status.
Sure.
Is that something that you would see changing, or is it market to them in a different way?
Yeah. So the question was, they go after physicians, which they don't find to be highly adopted in social media. So is that going to change over time, or is the strategy change? You know, I hear that a lot, and I rarely find a demographic where this stuff doesn't come into play. In fact, sometimes I almost think it's easier when you're going after a demographic that hasn't adopted as aggressively, like senior citizens or physicians, because your competition is way behind on these concepts, and it's a wide open territory. Versus try to get in front of college students on Facebook. It's not easy either, right? So, yes, maybe it's not as highly adopted from a percentage standpoint, but they are out there, and it is growing, and you have an opportunity to be an early adopter. And also, like things like I'm not an expert here, but like Sermo and other communities, like usually when you find these niche elements, it might not be Facebook, it might not be LinkedIn, but there are some niche communities. These same concepts would apply, and how you actually go after them is just a matter of going out and doing that. So we are out of time. I really appreciate everybody being here, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks, guys.